Hello, this is Andrew Botsford at the West Hampton Beach Performing Arts Center, and first and foremost, I'd like to welcome you to this first attempt at doing some film commentary, but instead of live, as I do during the summer, then I'm doing it as a recording because of the pandemic, obviously. And also, first and foremost, I hope that anybody that's checking this out is staying safe at home and is staying healthy, and that you and all your loved ones and the people you care about are able to stay healthy through this as we go through what we have to go through. You should know that we did this with all social distancing, and I have my mask that I was wearing before and gloves, and this is being filmed at the PAC, but using all social distancing protocols, which everybody should be doing. So let's get right to it. Most of you that are checking this out, I'm guessing everyone that's checking this out, has been to a Tuesday night at the movies with Andrew and friends, so you know how it goes. It's different, obviously, for me to not do it live, and I will say that if you are not familiar with the way we do these things and you have not yet seen the film, then do not watch this, because this is not a spoiler alert. This is nothing but spoilers. So you're going to want to see the film before you see any of this. And if you have seen the film, then I think you probably enjoyed it as much as I do, because this is a different kind of experiment, and I'm not doing it the way I do in the summer. In the summer, I tell everybody, please don't read anything about the films before you see them. Come with a blank slate. I can't do that in the summer because I have to do some research, because I have to see the film and make some notes and then come up and talk about it. So I need to do some of the research ahead of time. In this case, I didn't have to do that. I was the blank slate that I ask everyone else to be. And so I was just able to make some impressions, and way later in the process did I look up anything about the film. And really, I didn't pay that much attention to it. So it's different for me, it'll be different for you, but let's go to it. As we talk about during the summer, I was excited to see this film for a couple of reasons, but one was because the writer is the director. And as we talk about in the summer all the time, you get a much better film. You tend to get a much better film when you have a writer and the director as the same person, because there's no accidents. The writer knows exactly how he wants the film to come out and be filmed, and the director knows exactly how to do it. So there's no slip between the intentions of the writer and the execution of the director. They work together perfectly because they're the same creator. Go right to the film. It opens, I always talk about how films open up. How do they bring us in? How do they make their intentions clear to us and get us involved? And right away, we have some beautiful scenery. We meet the protagonist. And we have a song that to me sounded like Lou Reed at the beginning, which got me excited because it's subversive, it's interesting, it's kind of it's very contemporary, and I was excited by that. I was more excited when I found out, as I did a little research, that the song is by Iggy Pop, and that's even better than Lou Reed in my opinion. So, but the song is "I'm a Passenger." I am a passenger, and this is when we see Christy for the first time. And he's on a boat going to an island. So we get the geographical milieu, and we get him as a passenger. And he's not only a passenger on the boat, but as we find out, as we suspect from that footage, but throughout the film we find out, yes, he is a passenger on a roller coaster ride that we are going along for, and we are all passengers on this ride, and we don't know what's around any turn, or whether it's going up or down or where it's going, but we're passengers and we're along for the ride, as is Christy. So it's kind of interesting and beautifully set up. Then the credits are rolling while that's happening, and then he arrives on the island and he's met by someone. He's just wandering around. We don't know why he's there. We don't know who he is. We just know this is a man that we're going to be following. And is he good? Is he bad? Is he decent? Is he not? We don't know anything about it, why he's on the island. He's met by somebody and taken on a drive up a hillside to where he's going to be staying. Again, the song comes back. I am a passenger. He's a passenger going up to his place where he lives. He's met by a beautiful woman, absolutely stunningly beautiful. Reminds me of a younger Sophia Loren. And she takes him to his room. She says, "This is your room." She's very cold. She's very detached. She takes him, "This is your room. this is the terrace, this is where the kitchen, so forth, and shows him around, but she's completely detached and just cold as ice. And Christy is seems to be nonplussed, and she says to him what I think is maybe one of the most provocative lines I've ever heard in cinema: "Forget what happened in Budapest. I only did it for the surveillance cameras." To which one wonders instantly, what did she do for the surveillance cameras, and why is he supposed to forget it? And of course, we have the expectation that she did something interesting, and she's asking him to forget it because she's clearly showing no emotions. And is he there because of what happened in Budapest? We don't know. We wonder. And that's how this whole film goes. We keep seeing things and then finding out, how do we get there? What does it mean that we're at this place, and how do we get there? And to me, that's the genius of this film. One of the many geniuses of this film, which I just adored. And so, of course, having been given that provocation, we then have a slide that says Gilda, or Gilda. I'm not sure, I can't remember how to pronounce it. And so we're going to get the story of who she is and how did this come to be. And sure enough, we go to a scene in Budapest when she's getting together, and the MacGuffin is that she's asking him to get a person named Zolt out of prison. But they're very close together, and he says they're being watched at that time. And she says, well, let's go to your house and we'll talk about it some more. He says, no, there's surveillance cameras in my house. And he's talking just into her ear because there might be microphones, whatever. So she starts whispering to him. And in old movies, often there's a trope which says that you're being chased by somebody, so you quickly kiss a stranger and you get your back to them and they can't see you, or they go right by you. And then you say, excuse me, I'm sorry, I had to do that, or whatever. And that's often a meet cute, it's a whatever it is. In this case, it's taken to the nth degree because she says, I can't walk away from you now because they won't believe I'm your girlfriend. They have to believe I'm your girlfriend, otherwise they'll be suspicious of me. So let's go to your house and we'll pretend that I'm a hooker. Because if I go to your house and I walk away again after half an hour, I'm obviously not your girlfriend. So we must have done something, and we're going to be in front of the surveillance cameras at your house. So we'll play it out that I'm a high-class hooker. How much money do you have? And she gives the money, and he's told her where the cameras are. And so, sure enough, they set it up that she's a hooker, and they have insanely beautiful sex. And so this is the setup. This is clearly why he came to the Canary Islands. She's asked him to come to the Canary Islands. He said he won't go. And through it all, we get the setup that he's going to come probably because of this event. Tellingly, while she's making love to him, she's on top, and he tries to get engaged in the act, and she pins him down because it's obvious that not only is she in control, but this is transactional. This is something that she's doing for performance, and it's not to be an intimate, emotional thing. But of course, that becomes a lie because he obviously is emotionally involved. Although Christie, I would say, in the direction of this, gives new definition to deadpan. We never know what's going on inside his head. We never know what's in his heart. We don't know what he cares about, and that's true for the entire film. I would say that we could go through. I could go through a lot of different things that happen in the film, but it's just that there are levels of communication in this thing. The themes, I think, that we see when we get through to the end of it, and you can think about this and you think about your reflections on the film. And also, for me, I'm going to be thinking about it when I watch the film again because I have to see it again to really sort of get what I'm thinking is happening in the film. And to a large degree, the themes are to do with secrets and information. The film is about a secret language that they use that's whistling in order to keep their intentions away from the police, who don't understand the secret language of whistling. And he has to be trained. Christie has to be trained in this language of whistling. But is Christie a bad guy? Is he a policeman? Is he on the right side of right or wrong? There is no right or wrong in this film. There is only the pursuit of this money. There's 30 million euros at stake here. And the characters that we are introduced to are all involved in trying to get that $30 million. And who they betray on the way there, who gets double-crossed or triple-crossed. There is, in this film, there is the understanding that we have communication is between individual people, and they are privy to certain communication, which is all of them that know the whistling language are privy to that communication. In each setup of each group of people that get together, they understand who they're talking to and what to expect in terms of their communications are separate from the communications of that person with another person. And it's all calculated to the expectation of betrayal. It's like, it's obvious that I can't trust anyone, and therefore I will act as if I am trusting you with this information, but I know you will be sharing it with somebody else for your own personal purposes. And there are layers and layers and layers of that throughout. And it's also the understanding that police, gangster, lover, whatever it is, it's the expectation of you are either corrupt to begin with or you are corruptible. So there's no in between. If you're not already corrupt, you can be corrupted by money, by sex, by something can get to you and corrupt you. So it's a very interesting, and interestingly, one of the little bits of research I did on Metacritic, it's billed as, first and foremost, a comedy, and then a crime film. And the comedy is, as one reviewer said, you don't necessarily laugh while you're watching it, but you laugh a lot afterwards because of some of the things that are going on in it. I mean, the fact that there's going to be this thing where she's going to pretend to be a hooker, well, she's going to pretend to be a hooker, and she says she does it for the surveillance cameras, but she also does it to press him into service, to get him to do something he doesn't want to do. And it goes farther than that, because at the end of the time, we find out that he actually fell in love with her, although you'd never know that. And there is also the nature of happenstance. He hides money from his mother. I mean, in his mother's basement, and not to hide it from her, but just to hide money, 50,000 euros. She finds it, she donates it to the church, which forces Christie to go to confession. She wants him to go to confession because she's worried about him. He finds out from the priest she's worried that he's a homosexual, that he's fallen away from the church, that he's not a good man. She knows he's a policeman, but he's not a good man anymore, and she wants him to get help, so she donates the 50,000 euros that she thinks he stole to the church. And the priest isn't going to give it back. He's going to use it to build the church. So that kind of happenstance comes back a number of times in the film, and it makes for comedy. There is tremendous comedy in it, and there's even comedy in the fact that there's random murders. You talk about black comedy. There's a man who comes scouting locations for a film. He happens on them when they're meeting to strategize a plan for the heist. And he's allowed inside the warehouse, and he's quickly killed, just because we don't want any loose ends, anybody knowing that we met in this warehouse. So the guy just wandered into it, and he's dead. So make of that what you will, but it goes to what's happening in the film. And all the devices that are in there, it's such a filmmaker's movie. There's devices, they have the secret whistling language. There is on the TV or somewhere, there's I can't quite remember, there's a Western on in which John Wayne is with some other people, and he's surrounded by Indians. And the Indians are using a whistling language that the cowboys don't understand. And it's just an echo of what's going on in the movie. So it's kind of crazy. There's another moment near the end of the film when we see the shower scene from Psycho, which you see it coming, you see it's there, and it's like, oh my God, there's the shower scene from Psycho. But it's turned around because it's an empty shower and it's a reversal. And characters that we meet that we think we know who they are, they become other characters. There's a hotel clerk at the hotel called Opera, and at which they play opera all the time, and that's used in the scoring of the film. It's such a perfect collaboration with the film. I wish I understood opera better or knew more about opera, because I think there are messages in the opera that they play at that hotel that they make a joke about. Christie says, aren't you worried about playing this music all the time and that the customers will complain? maybe you should play something more upbeat, and the hotel clerk says, oh no, we're going to try and educate the customers. And at the end, the hotel clerk becomes a character that we never suspected he was. So wonderful little mysteries within mysteries within mysteries that happen in this movie. I would say the last thing I would say is, or the last couple of things I would say is that in this action, okay, nobody betrays any emotions in this film. They are all deadpan. They get angry a little bit. They get upset, but they are always trying to be transactional, trying to figure out how to get to the money. What's the best correlation of them with other people that they can get to the money? It doesn't matter who they double cross, doesn't matter whether they break the law, don't break the law, who they are, police, not police. It's about getting to the money, and it's about getting it done. And for instance, when Gilda is discovered to have betrayed Zolt, who's the main criminal, the drug dealer who amassed all the money in the first place, when one of his sidekicks finds out that she betrayed him, he uses that information to try and come on to her in the swimming pool. And when he's rebuffed, she says, don't be ridiculous, get away from me. And so he's rebuffed. And so at that point, he tells her, he's leaving, and she says, where are you going? He says, I'm going to go tell everybody that you're the traitor, that you and this other guy are traitors, and you're trying to screw him over for the money. And she says, oh, are you going to tell him about me? And he says, yes. Of course I am. Because she didn't give him what he wanted, so he's ratting her out. It's completely transactional. And what does she do? She accepts that. She says, oh, okay, well, I guess you're going to rat me out. So she has to start calculating how is she going to get around being ratted out. It's kind of crazy. And at the end, the happenstance of the mother finding the money, some of the money, and giving it to the church, which creates all kinds of havoc for Christie. At the end, there's another piece of happenstance, which is he's running away from a situation, and he's standing in the road. He's trying to flag down a car, and the car is coming at him, and the car speeds up and hits him. And that would maybe be the end of the film, except it's not. We then get a slide finally introducing Christie, which we didn't have at the beginning of the film, and this goes to a year later, and Gilda is looking for him. She goes to his mother's house, and who's living at his mother's house but the chief of police has taken up residence at his mother's house because she knows somebody's going to come back looking for Christie, who's in a hospital, essentially a hospital facility, guarded by somebody because they know somebody's going to come back for him to get the money, and supposedly brain damaged, and only just goes to the window and whistles all the time. So we don't know, but they get together finally. And here is Christie. Is he brain damaged? Has he been faking it? Because he's been so deadpan through the whole film that he might as well have been brain damaged. But he's just not speaking. He's only whistling now. Maybe he's lost the power of speech. We don't know. But Gilda comes to him. They meet, and they're standing together. And eventually, she looks at him. Is he a vegetable? How much is in there? We don't know. But she's come back to him. She didn't have to. She could have made off with the money, but she comes back to him. And so we think, well, she must care about him, as he's shown that he cared about her by the things that he did in the film. And eventually, she looks back at him. The camera goes to him, goes to her, goes to him, goes to her. And then she smiles. And only when she smiles do we know, A, that she loves him, or do we realize this is the first time she smiled in the entire movie. This is the first time anyone has smiled in the entire movie, which to me is just absolutely stunning piece of filmmaking, because how do you do that with people spending that much time together and nobody ever smiles or betrays any emotion? So I've gone on way longer than I would if it was live, and I hope that this is something that works for you. I think that it would be great if you have seen this and saw the film, enjoyed the film, or disagree with me about anything. If you'd like to write to the PAC and let them know that this was something you liked, something that worked for you, or if you have questions or comments about it. it would be great if you could write to info@whbpac.org and let them know what you think. I also would say that I hope that whatever you feel about this, that you will continue to stream the movies from the PAC. It's a great thing to do. It's them trying to keep the lights on and keep going with what they do. Everybody's trying to adapt their presentational forms. And this is it's not a huge moneymaker for the PAC, but it's just a way of them keeping their patrons in touch with the arts. And it's a deal with Magnolia Pictures, which I think is also trying to get their product out there in a time when the theaters are all closed. So any support you can give by streaming these things, by telling your friends to stream them, especially because they're great films, and it's a great thing to do, and a great way to spend your time when you, obviously, we are all having to spend a lot of time indoors. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you'll come back, and we're going to try and do some more of these if it works out. Hopefully other forms too. I might be able to have conversations with my friends as I do in the summer via Zoom, and then we can upload that to YouTube or however it's used. So thanks a lot. Take care.